Okay, this is 373, week 6, part 6. I do want to say a little bit more about the movie. Coriolanus is not a play that I would care about. But Ray Fiennes, because Coriolanus is not a character I would care about, but Ray Fiennes does such an incredible job, both directing the movie but playing the character. He's incredible. And the way you know he's incredible is that Coriolanus is such a dirtbag. Um, but when Ray Fiennes plays him, I kind of care about him in a weird way. Um, Coriolanus is one of the most confusing characters I've ever seen in a play or a story of any kind, a movie or whatever. I just don't know how to feel about him. I kind of love him. It's called ambivalence. I both love him and hate him at the same time. Um, yeah. Okay. Let's take a look a little bit more about him. Um, hmm, Sorry, it looks like there's a possible typo in here, but I don't know. I'll figure it out. So Marcius, this is Caius Marcius Coriolanus. Um, he yell. This is a war. This is one of the fighting war scenes, and he yells at the people. Um, Put your shields before your hearts and fight with hearts more proof than shields. Right, your brave hearts will protect you more than shields will. Advance. Why did they disdain us much beyond our thoughts, which makes us sweat with wrath? Come on, my fellows. He that retires, I'll take him for a Volsci, and he shall feel mine edge. The Volsces are the enemies. So and retire means retreat. So he's talking to regular people that are in his army, and he's in charge of these guys. And he by the way, he's not a guy. He doesn't point them and tell them where to go. He leads the charge. He's like right any kind of. And you've seen the movie, but any kind of attack, he's like right with them, and he's right. He wants right in front because Coriolanus loves a good fight. So he says to them, "Let's charge, and if you retreat, I will hunt you down and kill you like you're one of the enemies." I, he's kind of a badass. I do quite like that. And then they do retreat, and he gets mad at them. Now, one of the joys of this play is watching Coriolanus scream at people. And Ray Fiennes does a great job screaming at people, but he loses his shit so many times. The pres the big the big scene, "I banish you," is one of Shakespeare's great moments. Although nobody cares about it because nobody cares about this play, but nobody cares about this character, but I do. Um, they all retreat, and he screams at them, a contagion of the South light upon you, you shames of Rome, you herd of boils and plagues plaster you o'er, that he that may be abhorred farther than seen, and infect one another against the wind a mile. I wanna talk about this moment here. You herd of boils and plagues plaster you o'er. That's not a moment you would probably care much about, but I actually think it's vitally important to what Shakespeare is doing there. Um, how do I put this? I got to think about the best way to sort of describe this. Here, I'm going to leave this here. I got to get a battery pack charger thing because this is going to die. That moment where he says, "You heard of," and then he says, "Boils and plagues plaster you o'er," um, is an amazing moment in Shakespeare. It is so realistic in a way that is fascinating. When Macbeth gives his speech, "Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace," it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful speech. Um, but it doesn't sound like something he's thinking of at the moment because it is a perfect poem, and perfect poems take time to compose. And obviously, he is supposed to be really speaking it, like he's not reading it off a piece of paper or something. But it sounds, I don't know how to put it. Macbeth, the characters in Macbeth are just saying what's on their mind, but the way Shakespeare presents it to us, the audience, is in the form of these beautiful poems. Um, where there's carefully thought out metaphors. This with Coriolanus is something very different. He's yelling at them. Contagion is a disease. He says, "All the contagion of the South light upon you," meaning, I hope you all get diseases. "You shames of Rome, you herd of boils and plagues plaster you over, that you may be abhorred." That's an amazing moment because it's realistic. This Shakespeare has started writing Coriolanus in a different way than other characters. He writes Coriolanus so that Coriolanus speaks how actual people speak, um, more closer to how actual people speak. Why? Because Coriolanus he's so angry at them for retreating during the fight that he can't think straight. And as a result, he starts with one kind of insult and then cuts himself off and changes the insult to something else, because he's so angry he can't get it out in an organized way. So he says, a contagion of the South light upon you. He's hoping to get diseases. And then he says, you heard of, and he's probably going to call them sheep or, because they're so cows, because they're so cowardly or stupid. But he changes his mind and goes back to the disease metaphor. So he's going for a disease metaphor. I hope you all get diseases. And then he wants to go for an animal metaphor. You fucking herd of sheep. You're so stupid. But then he cuts himself off and he goes back. He forgot he was talking about diseases. So he goes back to a disease metaphor. Boils and plagues plaster you or infect one another. Then he goes back to the animal metaphor he wanted in the first place. You souls of geese that bear the shapes of men, how have you run from slaves that apes would beat? And he just yells at them. He tells them, you guys mend, meaning you guys have to be better than this. Charge home, and he lets charge the enemy. Or by the fires of heaven, I'll leave the foe and make my wars on you. Like, he's so pissed off that he can't keep his metaphor straight. He's like, I hope you get diseases. You're a bunch of animals. You know what? Diseases again. You know what? Animals again. I swear to God, if you retreat, I will stop fighting the enemy and I will start fighting you. He totally loses it. And I don't know. I just think it's extremely entertaining that other Shakespeare characters don't do this. Macbeth was very upset at many points, but Shakespeare always presented the language to you, the audience, as being something very beautiful, crafted, um, thought through. But here, Coriolanus is so angry that he can't think straight. He can't keep his metaphors straight. Macbeth always had cool metaphors, but Coriolanus can't. He's not a poet. He just hates these people so much. He hates them. These people are. He can't fit all the things they're doing wrong in his mouth. Does that make sense? Like he's so fucking pissed off, and I just think it's so funny. I love it so much, and I just love the idea. He's just so angry. He just wants to get in a fight. He doesn't care who it's with. So he's just like, I'm gonna kill my enemy, and then when his troops retreat, he's like, you know what? I swear to God, if you retreat again, I will stop fighting the enemy, and I will make my wars on you. There's probably something wrong with me that I think he's so funny, but I don't know. There's a certain kind of comedy where I always laugh in movies when one character has a really funny way of screaming at another character. I always think it's funny. Um, cool. Okay. Um, and he wins the fight, and he's incredibly successful. Coriolanus doesn't just win the fight. They do retreat on him again. Well, they sort of he charges into this area of the city, and the gates close behind him. All of his soldiers were supposed to go with him, and they were all going to fight in there. But he was running so far ahead that he gets cut off, and now he has to fight alone. And all of his soldiers are like, "Oh shit, he's in there by himself against all those guys. He's dead." But he's not dead. Like fucking Captain America, he single-handedly destroys all the enemies inside that area, and then he exits the gate having murdered everybody personally. It's incredible. Because say what you want, Coriolanus is very proud, and they'll talk about this a lot later. But he's sort of egotistical about how awesome he is. But let the record reflect, he is actually the greatest soldier who's ever lived. I mean, he is like Macbeth on the battlefield. He is the most incredible soldier. He's like a one-man army. He's a one-man killing machine. And he gets cut off from his army and he just kills everybody by himself. So he does sort of deserve to be proud in some way. And the next part I want to get to gets to a more complex part of his psychology that's tricky. After the battle's over, he single-handedly won the whole battle. And he did such a dramatic job, they're going to name him after the battle. So instead of Caius Marcius, they're going to call him Coriolanus. But the military commanders want to honor him. And the way you honor soldiers is you get a big crowd and you say nice things about the soldier. You say, we want to honor you for your deeds. Let's list off your great accomplishments. Now, most of us would like that. When most of us do something good, we would like people to fucking appreciate it. Say something nice. You did a great job. We want to hear that. Coriolanus is a complicated guy, and he's very good at his job, but he doesn't want anyone telling him he's good at his job. We'll talk about why in the next video.